Okay, welcome again here at Fundamentals of Web Design. So we're now on topic 5. So this is HTML tables, frames, and layout with CSS. So in this topic, these are learning objectives. So we will able to know how to use the table in HTML, and then know how to lay out div or the division according to layout land. And then the last is know how to use iframes and link the page to it. Okay, let's first discuss the what is HTML table. So HTML tables allow web developers to arrange data into rows and columns. So we have the table tag defines an HTML table. Okay, so each table row is defined with a tr tag. So each table header is defined with a th tag. So each table data or a cell or table cell is defined with a td tag. So by default, the text in th elements are bold and centered, and for text in td elements are in regular and left line. So basically, your table tag here, inside the table tag, you have tr, the table row, and or the inside the tr you have the th or your table header or your td, your table data or set. So th, you'll be using that if you're going to have your text by default, it will be bold and centered. And if you're going to use the td, so these are those regular and left aligned young format. So here at the right, so this is an example of HTML table. So as you can see, we use the tag table, so it has a three table row, and inside that each table row tr, we have the th, and we have also td here. Okay, so this is an example of HTML table. So if we're going to try to work that on the notepad, so let's see, let's start with the table, right? We have the close table. Okay, let's table. Okay, style, we use the what they call inline CSS. So with yeah. Okay, so inside the table we have this tr or the table row. Okay, inside the tr you can have th if you want to make your first data to be bold and centered. You use the th instead of td. Okay, copy this one, paste. Okay. Right now I'm using the Notepad++. So I nasada ang Notepad++ kay di siya boring na editor. May mga color, you can have it na yung mga line number. Okay, then you close your tr. Another one, so you have another tr again, just copy, then that's for Jill. So here we use now the td or your table data or table cell. Okay, we have this Smith. And then next is we have 50. So okay, we have the last TR for this table. So copy, paste. So here we have Eve, and then Eve Jackson, and then 94. Okay, you have to save this one. So let's look what's the output for this. So here, so is the table, no? As you can see, so we have the first TR. So this is your first TR class. Table row, first name, last name, and then for the TR, next TR. Okay. The first TR, this one, then you have the 3 TH, the first name, na, and an H. And then for the second TR, we have here Jill, and then kanan sila, second TR. You have the TD, Dion, Jill, Smith, and then so on. And same with the third TR. Alright, so this is your sample of how you do the table in HTML. So next is so how can we add border to your table? So to add a border to a table, so you use the CSS border property. So this is how you make add a border to your table. So basically we are using here the internal CSS. So you're going to call the table, the table th, and then you have to do this border property and its value. Okay, so let's try this out if it will have a border. So itong inline, I mean internal CSS, so it has a style tag, so it's inside in the style it's inside the head, also ang style. So now I'm going to call the table, same with th, and then td. So you have to open bracket, then the border, the property, which is the border. Okay, then the value 1px, 1 pixels, then solid, and then the color black. Okay, then you have to close it, bracket, and then same with the close style. Close style. Alright. So let's see kung mabordiran niya, no? So okay. So as you can see, this table is already have a border in it. So because we call the table the th and td. Okay. Next, so collapse borders. So to let the borders collapse into one border, add the CSS border collapse property. So we want this border, kanina nagdoble man siya. So we want it na kung may isa lang dyan sa line. So that's what we're going to use the border dash collapse na property. So just have to add. Okay, just to add here collapse border, right? Border, and then the value Yung value is collapse. Okay. Control S, save. Then let's see what is yung result. Oh, not work today. Border collapse there. Border collapse, not collapse border. Border collapse. Okay, save and then refresh. Okay, good. So this is the collapsing of your border. So kanina doble ang line kay border man ta sa table, and then we have also the TH and TB, so doble. So we now in this we was able to collapse, no, na merge na isa na to ang border. So mo lang to atong gigamit. Next we have so adding cell padding. So what this is cell padding. So cell padding specifies the space between the cell content and its border. So if you do not specify a padding, the table cells will be displayed without padding. To set the padding, you use the CSS padding property. So ano siya? So basically, imong padding is the space between your content and its borders. So let's try that one. So try to call again the TH, TD, and then okay, padding 15 pixels. Okay, then you have to close it, then save. So dapat ang mugawas ani nanay space between your content kani, for example kani sila content and sa imong border. So dapat magka-space sila, dili na ni kasikit. So let's refresh. Okay, so this is the look for if you're going to use the padding. Okay, next is left align headings. So by default, the table headings are bold and centered. To left align the table headings, use the CSS text align. So you just have to add this kung sa inyong i-text align. So no need to do the example. Okay, now let's proceed with border spacing. So with border spacing, it specifies the space between the cells. So to set the border spacing for a table, you use the border spacing. So now ganiya we use the padding, which is space niya is between the cell, I mean your content, and then the border, yung space. Now is the space between your between the border and your cells or the data cells. So just add to border spacing. Okay. So what I'm going to do, border spacing table border spacing. Okay, then border spacing, then select 5px. Okay, so dapat ang every cell niya kani siya cell data, every data, so dapat naa siya space sa border. So mas spacean siya sa border. So refresh. Oh, anong wala. Okay, so you have to erase this collapse kay gi-collapse man nato siya, so dili jud siya magbulag, di siya ma-space. So we have to erase natong collapse. So tanaw nato sa iyang result. Okay, so as you can see, as you notice, no, ang every gani sa atong padakon lagi 5 pixels. Okay, so as you can see, nana siya is ang space between the border and your data cell. Kani siya data cell or your TH. So, atong ganiya padding is the space between your content and your border. So mo na ang kalainan nila. Okay, next is we have a cell that spans many columns. So to make a cell span more than one column, you use the call span attribute. So natay mga call span. So we'll try to make this one. So tr, so we pila tr 2 and then th name. Isa na to gamit ang call span na. So say one telephone and then this one, then another tr Bill Gates, and then number and another number. Okay, close tr, close table. Okay, save. So let's see and say yung result. Okay, ano ito dapat natin kuha style. This good style. Ito table th td, then border 1px solid black, and y border table. Okay, wala siya, close. Okay, save one. Alright, so you can see here, collapse natin di. Collapse ito, border collapse, Right, so as you can see here, we have a table. So we have that dua ka tr, and then inside first tr we have 2th, and then for the next tr we have 3td. So for the ang concept sa call span is that column, no? So every column. So this one, so since ano na table, I want this that telephone dapat mo span siya aning dua ka column. So in order to do that, we use the call span. Now we have to use the call span. So atong i-apply ang call span dili dani sa name. So instead dani siya sa first dani siya sa telephone na th. Then padulong siya dito, i-cover niya ang duwa ka td na number. So to do that, so we have to call span here sa telephone. So pila iyang nakuan, pila iyang ma-cover na column. So we have 1 and 2. So enclose with double quotation, so we have 2. Let's see, dapat mo extend siya, ma-span siya. Okay, that's also okay. Mao na siya, no, ang work sa call span. So mo padulong siya dito. Alright, so next is if we have call span, we have also the row span. So cell that span many rows. To make a cell span more than one row, use the row span attribute. So ganiya we use the call span. Now we focus now on the row span. So here, so we have the table, we have the laka tr, we have 3 tr, then na siya atong try this one. So tr, th name, td Bill Gates, erase this one, td Bill Gates, Bill Gates, then td. Okay, and also th is another apply ang row span. We have the telephone, and then this one is okay, another tr. Please, so another tr, just cut this one, transfer another tr, td. Okay, then you have to close the tr. Okay, save that one. Okay. So let's see and say ang result for this. So we have here 3 tr, right? So first tr, so this one name and Bill Gates, no, name and Bill Gates, and then we have the second tr, telephone and the number, and for the last tr we have the number. So for row, so I want this kaning telephone, so iyang emerge or ispan padulong dani kani paubos. So meaning ang telephone merge niyang dayon ang duwa, dapat duwa niyang ma-merge. So unsaon man siya paghimo, so asa man nato, so magamit din taog row span. So ganiha, di ba, dani man to call span column iyang post. So now is the row span, yang pila yang ma-span rows. So dali ta magbutang sa telephone asa ikaduwa na tr, in which th na telephone. So we do this row span is equal to pila na po yung 2, di ba? 2. Okay, save. Alright, so this is this is the result for row span. So duwa iyang na span or na duwa na row. So that's the concept when you use the call span and the row span. Let's have another example, Robbie. So applying the call span. Okay, let's have this another example for the applying the call span. So here, and this will be the output. So basically, we will have a ilaka tr. So we have the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then we have the td. right? TH first, kaya naka bold and center man siya. And then, okay, let's proceed to this one. So for this, so we have the for TR, right? So we use the name TH, and then the TH here is expense. And then close the TH. Alright, so we have another TR. Constant ang rules pala. So pila ka TD, Aaron and $10. So we have TD, Aaron, and $10. Okay, for the third TR, let's copy this one. So we have the Priya, then $8. And for the last TR, so we have here, kung sa itong buhaton, kaya nakakuan man siya, we apply, nag-span siya sa duwa ka column. So we'll apply the call span. Right, so here, sa to, pila na po, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have another TR here. So for the saraman ka TD, right? So here we apply now the call span. Pila yung kabuk niyang na-cover? So we have 2. Okay, we have 2, and then some $18. So close the TD and then close the TR. Okay, save, and then kung pareho ba sila output. See that they have the same output. No, they have the same output. So you can see here, so name, expense, Aaron, wala siya naka-center naman, Sophia. Okay, so that's how we use apply or the call span. So let's proceed with another example for now for row span. So kanin siya na example class. So as you can see, pila ka TR, we have 3, 1, 2, 3. So we have column TD, TH, TD Dani. Okay, so try to have that. So tulo ka TR, name, age ni siya, age. So dadi man ta. So pila for the TR, for the first TR, so pila ka TH. So 1, 2, and 3. So for the 3 kuan, third TH, gispan man niya ang pila ka buok, tulo. So 1, 2, 3. So we're going to apply the row span here. So here TH, row span dayan, row span. Then pila ka buok, tulo, no? Tulo, 3. Okay, then gigs or gig. Close TH and TR. So next is we have TR. Na lang dayan, duwa ka TD, Aaron, and then the age 24. Next TR, we have Priya and 25. So close. Kay duwa naman siya. Okay. Then erase this one. Let's see kung pareha iyang result class. Okay, so it has the same result, right? So as you can see, So you have the name, the age, the gigs for gigs, to Aaron. Okay. So that's how you apply the row span and the col span. So I know it's kung sa inyo di pa siya inana kakalibog or confusing ba kayo, but have some practice nila. So I have to practice to give search for mga sample na table ng mga exercises or kanang kuan para ma-practice niyo. So, dali naman nun siya. Just a matter of kung unsay so dapat ka row span or ma-apply col span. Alright, so let's proceed. Okay, now we will how we do add caption to your table. So to add a caption to a table, so you just have to use the caption tag. So after sa table nimo na tag, so you add the caption. So for this, for instance, no, ato siya na table, so we'll add this caption after sa table. Caption, okay, monthly savings. Okay, we have to close the caption. Okay, then save. So na to unsay dapat ma-put na din siya caption sa taas. Okay, that's how you apply the caption. Okay, okay pa ba? Tanan. Alright, next is, so there are special type for one table. So to define a special type for one particular table, add an ID attribute to the table. So if you have adagan kag table na gigamit sa imong sa HTML or sa imong website, sa imong web page or sa imong browser, so in order to edit or to modify or style that certain table, katulang na table, so you'll put an ID on it. So ID can help you to add an or put some style for that special particular table. So magamit din kag ID. So you can now define special type for this table. So you just have to call the ID, katong ID sa table. So you just have to first, if you're going to use the internal CSS or the external, so you just to put this hashtag and then the name of your ID. That's how you do it. Okay, next. Okay, we're done with the table tags. So now we'll be discussing what is the difference between when you say HTML block and HTML elements. I mean inline elements. So every HTML element has a default display value. So depending on what type of element it is, so there are two display values. So we have the block and inline. So when you say block level element, so a block level element always starts on a new line. A block level element always takes up the full width available, stretches out to the left and right as far as it can. So a block element, a level element has a top and a bottom margin, whereas an inline element does not. So we have here the div or the division element is an example of a block level element. Okay, so as you can see here, these are the list of samples of block level elements. So just make familiar with this. So we have also the chart. So monang block element kato siya, hindi siya mo stretches out siya sa imong line sa imong browser. So di siya mo kuha og another line. So next is we have the inline elements. So inline elements does not start on a new line. an inline element only takes up as much width as necessary. So this is so katong black element mo stretch out man siya from your left to right. So take up dyan niya ang width dito. So walay maka-insert. So kung may insert mo, next siya sa another line. While ang inline will have to takes yarang kuan is katulang jud ang na-cover niya na width. So pwede ra siya maabayan ang inline. So here we have the span example, an example of an inline element. We have this span. So we have also here another list of inline elements. Okay, these are the inline elements. So we have the div elements or the division. So div division is an example of a block element, right? So the div element is often used as a container for other HTML elements, meaning isa siya ka group siya. Kung sasabot ang container, siya sila na container na puno siya mga elements, no? So manang div. So the div element has no required attributes, but style, class, and ID are common. So when used together with CSS, the div element can be used to style blocks of content. Okay. Okay, let's have this as an example for the div element. So ito makita unsa na siya. So I already have copied this. Let's erase this one. So let's insert the div. So ano siya? Mo ni siya. Insert na ako. Okay, let's see kung sa iyang result. Okay, so basically ang div kamo na siyang isa ka container. So compose siya mga attributes and elements sa isa ka ana. Mo na siya ang concept sa div. So if we try to add another div, no? So let's see here, copy this one. So let's change the color. So try to have blue. So save. So it should have another div. Okay, muna siya, no? So muna siya concept sa div. So kung mag-inline CSS mo or external, you just have para ma-edit nimong a specific particular na div, you have to use the class unsa ba ito ID na Japan, same with the table, right? Okay, that's the div, the division. Okay, let's proceed with next. Now we have the span element. So the span element is an inline container used to mark up a part of a text or a part of a document. So the span element has no required attributes, but style, class, and ID are common. So when used together with CSS, the span element can be used to style parts of the text. You just have to ikuha lang nimo ang iyang part sa text. Let's have an example for the span. So kani siya, ato ni copy, try to paste that one here, paste this one. Wait. So copy. Okay. Close this one. Okay. Paste. So what we did here is siya my mother part of the text of the paragraph. So nag-apply tag span. So ang gispan nato, kuluran nato blue font ang kaning blue na word sa paragraph. So So yung result na save. Okay, save this one. So let's have yung result. So as you can see, part of the text are being edited or styled. So muna siya ang concept sa span. Okay, now let's proceed with the next. So the class attribute. So okay, we know that in dev, or I mean in block and or dev or the span inline element, it has no specific attribute, right? But it has a common class attribute, the ID attribute. So we'll discuss what is this class attribute. So the HTML class attribute is used to specify a class for an HTML element. So multiple HTML elements can share the same class. So the class attribute is often used to point to a class name style sheet. So it can also be used by a JavaScript to access and manipulate elements with a specific class name. Okay, and then so in here, in the following example, we have 3 division elements with a class attribute with a value of city. So we have the 3. So actually sumpay ni siya class. So ano siya? We have 3 dev. So first dev, second dev, and the third dev. Upat siya. In the following, we have 3 dev elements with a class attribute of value of city. Okay, upat man eh. Okay, upat. So all of the 3 dev elements will be styled equally according to the city. This class style in the head section. So sa every div na siya class na tawag niya agi but niya city. So for this inline internal CSS, gitawag din niya ang class name na city. Same lang Japan siya sa uban no nani tawago lang nila the period imong gamiton, period and the name of the class. That's how you use the class name, the class attribute. Okay, so in the following example, we have 2 span. We have span again, span na the elements with a class attribute with a value of node. So both span elements will be styled equally according to the .node style definition in the head section. So for span, you can also put class on. So in this case, we node atong gigamit. Na siya. Same lang Japan siya sa atong dev, right? I want to use class. And then we have, what if we have some multiple classes? So HTML elements can belong to more than one class. So to define multiple classes, separate the class names with a space. Example, dev class, go to city main. The element will be styled according to all classes specified. So in the following example, the first h2 element belongs to both the city class, alright, and also to the main class, and will get the CSS from both of the classes. So you can have each elements can have more than one class. So more than one class. Okay. So use of the class attribute in JavaScript. You can also have used this on JavaScript. I think we will be tackling JavaScript after midterm. No, we'll just have to kamera na kuan sa JavaScript. So the class name can also be used by JavaScript to perform certain tasks for specific elements. So here JavaScript can access elements with a specific class name with the get elements by class name. So mo na siya. Square function, may function man siya ang syntax sa JavaScript. Medyo complicated siya, nagamit na mga for loop programming na siya, no? So var x itawag niya ang get elements by class name niya, gitawag niya siya. So anyway, we will be dealing this later after midterm for the finals. So we're done with the class. Now we'll proceed with the ID attribute. So the ID attribute specifies a unique ID for an HTML element. So the value of the ID attribute must be unique within the HTML document. So the ID attribute is used to point a specific style declaration in style sheet. It is also used by JavaScript to access and manipulate the element with a specific ID. So the syntax for ID is write a hash character followed by an ID name, then define the CSS properties within curly braces. So in the following example, we have an h1 element. So we have an h1 element that points to the ID name my header. So gamit siya ID in my header. So this h1 element will be styled according to the my header style definition in the head section. So itawag na po niya ang my header. So gamit siya, ang syntax is hash character, no? Ang gamit kag ID, so tawagan nimong ID. So hash character, then the ID name. So that's how you use the ID. So for class, diba? For class is we kuan that atong kuan itong gigamit. So what's my difference between class and ID? So a class name can be used by multiple HTML elements, while an ID name must only be used by one HTML element within the page. So mo na siya ang difference. So ang class, you can use multiple class in HTML elements, while an ID is you can only use it once, no? So as you can see here, we have we have multiple elements with class. So dagan yang gamit sa isa ka element. For h2, we have the same element, class name. And then for within a page, within the page, okay. And then for it's a unique ID for if you're going to use the ID. So ID, hash number, hash character yung gamiton. For class, you just put that, then the name of your class. Alright, so that's the difference between the class and the ID. So we have also HTML bookmarks. HTML bookmarks with ID and links. So HTML bookmarks are used to allow readers to jump to specific parts of a page. So bookmarks can be useful if your page is very long. So to use a bookmark, you must first create it and then add a link to it. Then when the link is clicked, the page will scroll to the location of the bookmark. So this is useful for if you have a long page, a very long page in web page. So you just have to go to mga kuan na icon at link na go to the next page, to this page. No? So mani ang gamit sa bookmarks with ID and links. Okay, so first you have to create a bookmark with the ID attribute. So we have the H2 for example. So chapter 4. So then add a link to the bookmark, jump to chapter 4 from within the same. So add ka dani href is equals to c katotong kuan mo ang ID, jump to chapter 4, or add a link to bookmark, jump to chapter 4 for another page. Sana lang siya. mo na siya ang bookmark with ID. So kamo na ngitag sample anak class kay module medyo taas-taas na siya. Pwede naman siya ma-search. So next is using the ID attribute in JavaScript. So we can also use the ID. So not only the class, but you can also use the ID into the JavaScript. Same ng Japon siya. Okay. Okay, we're done with itong the block and inline elements. So div, the span, and then the ID and the classes. So let's proceed now with HTML iframes. So what is an HTML iframe? An HTML iframe is used to display a web page within a web page. Okay. So ang syntax niya. So the HTML iframe tag specifies an inline frame. So an inline frame is used to embed another document within the current HTML document. So we have syntax, iframe, source niya, and the description. So we have tip. It is a good practice to always include a title attribute for the iframe. Why? It is used by screen readers to read out what the content of the iframe is. Okay. Okay, next. So iframe set height and width. You can set the height and width of your iframe. So you use the height and width attributes to specify the size of the iframe. So the height and width are specified in pixels by default. So as an example, iframe. So set the job nimong height and kanya. So you can add the style attribute and use the CSS height and width properties. So we're going to want that iframe. Okay. See yung result. So man siya imong iframe class. Iframe. You just nag-X iyang kuan kay wala tay HTML na git kuan dem wala siya tay HTML na kani siya na-save. So nag-specify kasi imong height 200, width is rendered. Okay. Na siyang iframe. Naka-frame siya iframe. Okay. Next is iframe remove the border. So how to remove the border of your iframe? By default, an iframe has a border around it. So to remove the border, add the style attribute and use the CSS border properties. So none lang siya style, limon na siya border, none. Alright. So with CSS, you can also change the style and color of the iframe's border. Siya. Dani na siya. You can use that. Okay. And then next is iframe target for a link. So nadya pa siya target. So an iframe can be used as the target frame for a link. So the target attribute of the link must refer to the name attribute the iframe. So iframe, so yung target ayun na ano siya. Okay, that's the iframe link for a link, no? So anyway, we will not focus on those iframe now. So as long as we have some idea or background sa iframe. Okay, I think we're done. No, so so just to recap last. So for this topic, so we have able to discuss we have discussed the table, the HTML table. So from the t from a table, tag. Inside the table tag we have the tr. So inside the tr we have the th or the td, your td. So we have able also to discuss how to call span, the row span your table, right? And then we have also discussed the block elements and the inline elements. So what are the block elements? We have example is the dev. So dev is just a container of different attributes or elements that contain different attributes and elements. So you can use the dev. So that is example of a block element. So it can expand from your left and right space width. And then for the inline elements, we have an example is this, and it will extend from its kung unsa lang yang i-makuan na width. So mura to it dili siya mo proceed to another paragraph or another space. And then we have also discussed the ID, no, the class in which the ang dev ang block elements and inline element can have wala siya specific na attribute, but it can have a common class and ID. Yeah. Then we have also this last we have also discussed na ma-apply po siya sa JavaScript, no? So and last is we have the introduce the iframes. Okay. So thank you everyone. So thank you so much class for this for this time. So I hope you able to grasp some knowledge from this topic. So thank you so much. So always remember, from the Chinese proverb, teachers can open the door, but you must enter it yourself. Alright, so thank you so much and have a great night, have a great day. Okay, thank you.